Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the stars twinkle in the dark space. He had done this same routine for 15 years, and nothing ever changed. The coffee in his cup was still warm, and the morning reports were still boring. Earth was at peace, and that was exactly how Jake liked it. The communication officer, Lieutenant Ben Carter, rushed into the room with sweat on his face. His hands were shaking as he held a datapad. Jake had never seen Ben look so scared. "Sir, you need to see this right now," Ben said, his voice cracking. "Something big just appeared at the edge of our solar system." Jake took the datapad and looked at the screen. His coffee cup fell from his hand and crashed on the floor. On the screen was a fleet of ships so large that it blocked out the stars behind it. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. "When did they arrive?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. 15 minutes ago, sir. They just appeared out of nowhere. No warning, no signals, nothing. Jake hit the emergency button on his desk. Red lights started flashing all over Luna Station. Within seconds, every defense platform in the solar system would know about the alien fleet. Within minutes, Earth would know 2. Captain Lisa Hayes was in the middle of eating breakfast when her phone rang. She was Earth's best diplomat, the person who talked to other worlds when there were problems. But she had never talked to aliens before because they had never met any. "Lisa, get to Global Defense Command right now," said the voice on the phone. It was General Paul Rogers, and he sounded worried. "We have visitors, and they don't look friendly." Lisa dropped her fork and ran to her car. The streets were still quiet because most people didn't know what was happening yet. But she could see military vehicles racing toward the city center. Something big was definitely wrong. At Global Defense Command, President Daniel Clark was already in the main meeting room. He looked older than usual, with worry lines on his face. General Rogers was pointing at a huge screen that showed the alien fleet. "How many ships?" the president asked. "We count at least 800, General Rogers replied. "But more keep appearing. We think they have some kind of cloaking technology." Dr. Helen Price, Earth's top alien expert, was studying the ships through a telescope. She had spent her whole career preparing for this moment, but now that it was here, she felt scared. "The ships are arranged in a perfect formation," she said. "This looks like a military force, not explorers or traders." Then the aliens sent their message. Every screen on Earth, every radio, every communication device suddenly showed the same thing. A tall, gray creature with 4 arms and glowing red eyes stared at the camera. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "I am Supreme Commander Zethkar of the Hegemony," the alien said. "We have come to your world to offer you a choice. You can surrender now and join our empire as servants, or you can fight us and die." The alien's image changed to show other worlds. Beautiful planets with cities and forests, all destroyed. Burned ground where nothing grew. Empty space where planets used to be. "We have conquered 47 species," the alien continued. "All of them made the same choice in the end. They chose to live as our servants rather than die as rebels. We give you 72 hours to make your decision. Broadcast your surrender on all frequencies, or we will destroy your world completely." The message ended, and the room was silent. President Clark looked around the table at his advisors. "Options?" General Rogers spoke first. "Sir, we can't fight them. Look at the size of that fleet. Our entire military couldn't scratch the paint on their smallest ship." "What about evacuation?" asked Lisa. "Can we get people off the planet?" "Where would they go?" Dr. Price replied. "Those ships are blocking every exit from the solar system. We're trapped." Admiral Morrison's voice came through the communication system from Luna Station. "Mr. President, I've been studying their formation. They're not expecting a fight. They're expecting us to give up. What do you mean? The president asked. Look at how they're positioned, Jake said. They're not in battle formation. They're in parade formation. They think this is already over. Dr. Price pulled up files on her computer. I've been studying the message, she said. Did you notice what the alien said? 47 species and all of them surrendered. He didn't say they were defeated in battle. He said they chose to surrender. So? General Rogers asked. So maybe none of those species ever fought back, Dr. Price explained. Maybe the hegemony has never actually had to fight a real war. The room fell silent again as everyone thought about this. Lisa looked at the president. Sir, what if we don't surrender? Then they'll destroy us, General Rogers said quickly. Maybe, said Dr. Price. Or maybe they don't know how to fight an enemy that fights back. President Clark stood up and walked to the window. He could see people on the streets below, going about their normal lives. Most of them still didn't know about the alien fleet. They were free, and they had been free for their entire lives. My grandfather fought in World War III, the president said quietly. He used to tell me that freedom isn't free. Someone always has to pay the price for it. He turned back to face the room. Throughout history, humans have faced impossible odds. We've been outnumbered, outgunned, and told we couldn't win. But we kept fighting anyway, because that's who we are. The president looked at each person in the room. I won't ask anyone else to make this choice. The decision is mine alone. But I know what my grandfather would do. I know what every human who ever fought for freedom would do. He walked to the communication console and opened a channel to every broadcasting station on Earth. This is President Daniel Clark, speaking to all citizens of Earth 72 hours ago. We learned that we are not alone in the universe. An alien empire has demanded our surrender. They want us to become their slaves, to give up everything that makes us human. The president's voice grew stronger. I have seen what they do to worlds that surrender. I have seen the empty planets and the destroyed cities. I have seen what becomes of species that choose slavery over freedom. He paused, then continued. Today, we send our answer to the stars. We reject their peace. We reject their empire. We reject their demand that we kneel. The president's final words rang out across the planet and into space itself. If you want our world, come and take it. The die was cast. Earth would fight. The alien attack began exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum. Supreme Commander Zethkar expected the humans to break within the first day, just like every other species had done. But the humans were different, and the aliens were about to learn why. Commander Rick Davis sat in his fighter cockpit, waiting for the order to attack. His ship was small compared to the alien vessels, but it was fast and hard to hit. Behind him, 300 other human pilots waited in the asteroid belt, hidden among the rocks and metal debris. All units, this is Davis, he said into his radio. Remember, we don't fight them like they expect. We hit and run. Make them chase us. Make them angry. Make them stupid. The alien fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation, just like they had done 47 times before. Each ship stayed in its exact position, following the same pattern that had worked for centuries. They expected the humans to meet them in space with their own fleet, fight a traditional battle, and lose quickly. Instead, the humans scattered like angry bees. Rick led the first attack. His squadron came out of the asteroid belt at full speed, fired their missiles at the alien ships, then disappeared back into the rocks before the aliens could respond. The missiles did little damage, but they made the aliens confused and angry. What are they doing? Supreme Commander Zethkar asked his officers. Why don't they fight properly? His second-in-command, General Vextar, studied the human attack pattern. Sir, They're not following any military doctrine we know. They attack from everywhere and nowhere. They don't stay to fight. Then we'll hunt them down, Zethkar said. Break formation. Chase them. This was exactly what Rick had hoped for. The moment the alien ships broke their perfect formation, they became vulnerable. Captain Amy Wells, commanding her destroyer from deeper in the asteroid belt, opened fire on the scattered alien ships. Her crew had spent weeks preparing for this moment, hiding supplies and weapons among the asteroids. Target their engines, Amy ordered. Don't try to destroy them. Just slow them down. The alien ships were powerful, but they were also big and slow. The human ships were small and fast, darting between asteroids like fish in a coral reef. Every time the aliens tried to follow, the humans would disappear into the rocks, only to appear somewhere else and attack again. On Earth, General Kate Murphy was preparing for the ground invasion. She had studied every war in human history, looking for lessons that could help against an alien enemy. What she found was simple. Humans were very good at making life difficult for occupying forces. Listen carefully, she told her officers. The aliens expect us to fight like their other enemies. They expect big battles with clear winners and losers. Instead, we're going to fight like humans always have when facing a stronger enemy. The first alien landing ships came down in major cities around the world. The aliens expected to find military bases and government buildings to capture. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. The humans had evacuated the cities, but they hadn't gone far. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker watched the aliens land from his hiding place in the subway tunnels under New York City. He had 200 soldiers with him, plus about 1,000 ordinary citizens who had volunteered to fight. Teachers, shop owners, taxi drivers, and students, all carrying weapons and ready to defend their home. Remember, Steve whispered into his radio, we're not trying to stop them. We're trying to make them wish they had never come here. The aliens marched through the empty streets in perfect formation, their heavy boots echoing off the buildings. They moved like they owned the place, because in their experience, they always did after landing. Then the first sniper opened fire. The shot came from a window 50 stories up, taking out an alien officer. Before the aliens could react, the sniper was gone, and another shot came from a different building. Then another and another. The aliens tried to surround the buildings, but the humans had connected all the buildings with tunnels and bridges. Every time the aliens thought they had cornered a human sniper, they found empty rooms and escape routes they didn't know existed. Dr. Helen Price, working with General Murphy from a hidden command center, watched the alien response with great interest. Look at how they react, she said, pointing at the screens showing the battle. They're getting frustrated. They don't know how to fight an enemy that won't stand still. Is that good or bad? Asked General Murphy. It's very good, Dr. Price replied. Frustrated enemies make mistakes. And these aliens have never been frustrated before. The aliens' first big mistake came when they tried to capture the subway system. They thought that controlling the underground tunnels would stop the human attacks. Instead, they walked into the biggest trap in military history. Steve Parker had spent weeks preparing the subway tunnels. He had set up ambush points, escape routes, and enough supplies to last for months. When 300 alien soldiers entered the tunnels, they found themselves in a maze designed by humans who had grown up playing war games. Welcome to New York, Steve said. As his soldiers opened fire from positions the aliens couldn't see. Hope you brought lunch because you're going to be here for a while. The battle in the tunnels lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, the aliens had lost half their soldiers and controlled nothing. The humans had lost 12 people and still owned every tunnel in the city. Similar battles were happening around the world. In London, humans used the old bomb shelters from World War II. In Tokyo, they used the subway system. In Moscow, they used the underground cities built during the Cold War. Everywhere the aliens landed, they found humans who had been preparing for war longer than the aliens had been alive. The aliens' second big mistake was trying to understand human tactics. They were used to fighting species that had logical, predictable ways of warfare. Humans were different. They didn't follow rules. They made up new rules as they went along. When the aliens tried to cut off human supply lines, the humans started using children on bicycles to carry messages. When the aliens tried to jam human communications, the humans started using drums and smoke signals. When the aliens tried to control the food supply, the humans started growing vegetables on rooftops and in basements. After 1 week of fighting, Supreme Commander Zethkar called an emergency meeting with his officers. For the first time in his life, he was losing a war. "How many cities do we control?" he asked. "None, sir," replied General Vextar. "We hold positions in every major city, but the humans keep attacking us. We can't move supplies, we can't communicate properly, and our soldiers are getting tired. What about their military?" "Sir, we're not fighting their military. We're fighting their entire population. Every human seems to be a soldier." Zethkar stared at the battle reports. In 1 week, he had lost more soldiers than in the previous 47 conquests combined. And the humans were just getting started. "Sir," said another officer, "there's something else. The humans are learning. Every day they get better at fighting us. They're adapting to our tactics faster than we can change them." For the first time in his long life, Supreme Commander Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The humans were not surrendering. They were not running away. They were fighting back, and they were winning. News of Earth's resistance spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Ambassador Carol Stone sat in her hidden space station beyond Pluto, sending secret messages to other worlds. She had been Earth's backup plan, a diplomat who could talk to other species if the worst happened. Now the worst had happened, and Carol was about to discover that Earth was not alone. "Message received from the Zephyrian system," said her communication officer, Sergeant Tim Murphy. "They want to know if the reports about Earth are true." Carol looked at the message on her screen. The Zephyrians had been conquered by the hegemony 200 years ago. They were supposed to be loyal servants of the alien empire. But their message was asking questions that loyal servants shouldn't ask. "Send them the footage from New York," Carol said. "Let them see what humans do when someone tries to make them slaves." The footage showed Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker and his soldiers fighting in the subway tunnels. It showed ordinary people with hunting rifles standing up to alien soldiers. It showed humans refusing to give up, even when the odds were impossible. Within hours, the message had spread to 12 worlds. Then 100. Then thousands. Species that had surrendered to the hegemony centuries ago watched in amazement as humans fought back against the same enemies who had conquered them on Earth. The war was entering its second month. The aliens still held positions in every major city, but they controlled nothing. Every street was a battlefield, every building was a fortress, and every human was a potential enemy. Colonel Rachel Stone led a special mission that would change everything. She was Jake Morrison's daughter, and she had inherited her father's courage and her mother's intelligence. Her job was to steal alien technology, but not to destroy it. She wanted to learn from it. "Remember," Rachel told her team as they prepared to board an alien command ship, "we're not here to fight. We're here to take their toys and figure out how they work." The mission was dangerous. Rachel's team had to get inside the alien ship, steal their communication equipment, and get out without being caught. But they had one advantage. The aliens didn't expect humans to be smart enough to steal their technology. The team used the same tactics that had worked on the ground. They moved through the ship's ventilation system, avoided the main corridors, and struck when the aliens least expected it. Within 2 hours, they had stolen the alien communication system and escaped back to Earth. Dr. Helen Price studied the alien technology with fascination. "This is incredible," she said. "Their communication system can reach any planet in the galaxy instantly. But look at this. They're getting messages from other worlds, and not all of them are friendly." The stolen communications revealed something amazing. The hegemony was not as united as they pretended to be. 3 of their member species were questioning their loyalty. The aquatic nautiloids were asking why they had to serve the hegemony. The crystalline hive mind was wondering if they were strong enough to be free. And the Zephyrians were openly talking about rebellion. "Send this to Admiral Morrison," Dr. Price said, pointing at a message from the Zephyrian fleet. "They want to help us." Jake Morrison received the message while his ship was hiding in the asteroid belt. He couldn't believe what he was reading. The Zephyrians, who were supposed to be fighting for the hegemony, were offering to switch sides. "This could be a trap," said his second-in-command, Captain Roy Adams. "Maybe," Jake replied. "But we have to take the risk. We can't win this war alone." The first meeting between humans and Zephyrians took place in the empty space between Mars and Jupiter. Captain Travis Kelly, commanding a small human ship, met with Commander Zix-Hi of the Zephyrian fleet. "We have watched your species fight," Zix-Hi said through the translator. "We had forgotten that it was possible to resist the hegemony. You have reminded us of something we lost long ago." "What's that?" Travis asked. "Hope." The Zephyrians revealed something that shocked the humans. They had never stopped wanting to be free. They had just forgotten that freedom was possible. But watching humans fight had reminded them of their own courage. "We are not the only ones," Zix-Hi continued. "Many species in the hegemony are tired of serving others. They want to be free, but they don't know how to fight. We can teach them," Travis said. Meanwhile, on Earth, something even more important was happening. Engineer Commander Ron Hayes had been studying the alien weapons that his soldiers had captured. But instead of just copying them, he was making them better. "Look at this," Ron said to General Murphy, holding up an alien energy rifle. "These weapons are powerful, but they're designed for soldiers who stand in formation and shoot at enemies who also stand in formation. They're not designed for the kind of fighting we do." Ron had modified the alien weapons to work better for human tactics. He made them lighter, faster to reload, and more accurate at close range. But most importantly, he had figured out how to make them in human factories. "We don't just have alien weapons now," Ron explained. "We have better alien weapons." The psychological impact of the stolen communications was enormous. When the aliens realized that humans had been listening to their private messages, they became paranoid. They didn't know which of their own species they could trust. Supreme Commander Zethkar called an emergency meeting of all hegemony leaders. Representatives from 12 species gathered on his flagship to discuss the human problem. "The humans are like a virus," Zethkar said. "They're spreading ideas of rebellion to our loyal species. We must stop them before the infection spreads further." But it was already too late. The crystalline hive mind announced that they were withdrawing from the war. The methane breathers said they would no longer send ships to fight humans. The aquatic nautiloids simply left without saying anything. Captain Julia Green, exploring the wreckage of a destroyed alien transport ship, made a discovery that explained everything. In the ship's computer, she found the real history of the hegemony. "They're not conquerors," Julia reported to Earth Command. "They're bullies. Every species they've conquered gave up without a real fight. They've never actually won a war. They've just scared everyone into surrendering." The records showed that the hegemony had never fought a species that refused to give up. They had never faced an enemy that got stronger during a long war. They had never dealt with a species that inspired others to rebel. "They're like the neighborhood bully," Julia continued. They're tough when everyone is afraid of them. But the moment someone fights back, they don't know what to do. As the second month of fighting came to an end, the situation had completely changed. The aliens still had more ships and better technology, but they were losing the war. They couldn't control Earth. They couldn't stop the rebellion from spreading, and their own empire was falling apart. More importantly, they were learning something about humans that terrified them. Humans didn't just fight for themselves. They fought for others. They fought for strangers. They fought for people they had never met, on worlds they had never seen. Just because those people wanted to be free. Dr. Price studied the alien psychology reports with growing excitement. They can't understand us, she told President Clark. Their entire species is based on self-interest. They can't comprehend why we would fight for other species. That's their weakness, the president replied. They think everyone is like them. They can't imagine that someone might fight for something bigger than themselves. The war was far from over, but the tide had turned. The humans had survived the first attacks, learned from their enemies, and inspired others to join their cause. The hegemony's empire of fear was cracking, and freedom was spreading across the galaxy. And it had all started with one simple message. If you want our world, come and take it. The third month of Earth's resistance became the turning point for the entire galaxy. What had started as one world's fight for freedom had grown into something much bigger. The human message was now broadcasting to every corner of space. If we can fight, so can you. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Defiance. The ship had been built from parts of destroyed alien vessels, human technology, and help from their new Zephyrian allies. It was ugly, patched together, and absolutely deadly. Admiral, we're receiving signals from the Kepler 442 system, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim, his communication officer. The rebellion there is ready to begin. Jake smiled. 3 months ago, he had been defending one solar system. Now he was coordinating rebel forces across 20 star systems. The humans had become teachers, showing other species how to fight for their freedom. Tell Commander Turner he has permission to begin the liberation. Jake said. Commander Ben Turner commanded a mixed fleet of human and Zephyrian ships. His mission was to free the Kepler 442 system, which had been under hegemony control for 50 years. The local species, called the Rovers, had been slaves for so long they had almost forgotten what freedom meant. Remember, Ben told his pilots, we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for everyone who wants to be free. The battle for Kepler 442 was different from the fighting on Earth. This time, the humans were not defending their home. They were attacking an enemy stronghold to free people they had never met. It was something the hegemony could not understand. The hegemony fleet at Kepler 442 was expecting a traditional space battle. Instead, they got something completely new. The human ships used the same hit-and-run tactics that had worked in Earth's asteroid belt. But now they had Zephyrian ships providing cover, and rover rebels attacking from inside the system. Their defense grid is down, reported Captain Lisa Webb from her attack fighter. The rovers have been sabotaging it for weeks. The battle lasted only 6 hours. When it was over, the hegemony fleet was destroyed, and the Kepler 442 system was free. But more importantly, the victory proved that the rebellion could win battles away from Earth. News of the victory spread quickly. On a dozen worlds, rebel groups began open warfare against their hegemony rulers. The carefully controlled empire that had lasted for centuries was falling apart in a matter of weeks. On Earth, the situation had completely changed. General Kate Murphy's ground forces were no longer defending cities. They were attacking. The aliens who had invaded Earth 3 months ago were now trapped in small pockets, surrounded by angry humans who wanted them gone. Status report, General Murphy said to Colonel Steve Parker. who would become famous for his subway tunnel battles. "Sir, we control 90% of New York City," Steve reported. "The aliens are holed up in 3 buildings, and they're running out of food and ammunition. Any word from the other cities?" "Same story everywhere. London, Tokyo, Moscow, Paris. The aliens are trapped and can't get supplies. They're asking for evacuation, but their fleet is too busy fighting Admiral Morrison to help them." The psychological warfare that Dr. Helen Price had started was now being used across the galaxy. The simple fact that humans refused to give up had broken something in the alien mind. Species that had served the hegemony for centuries were suddenly asking themselves why they had ever surrendered. "The hegemony's member species are defecting faster than we can count," Dr. Price reported to President Clark. "The crystalline hive mind has officially joined the rebellion. The methane breathers are attacking hegemony supply lines. Even some of the core species are questioning their loyalty." "What about the aliens on Earth?" the president asked. "They're scared. Many of them are asking for amnesty. They want to surrender, but they're afraid their own commanders will execute them for cowardice." This gave President Clark an idea that would change everything. Instead of just accepting alien surrender, he decided to offer them something better. "Dr. Price," he said, "I want you to send a message to every alien soldier on Earth. Tell them we're offering them a choice. They can fight us and die, or they can join us and live free." The message was broadcast in every alien language. It was simple. "We are not your enemies. Your leaders are your enemies. Join us and be free." The response was immediate. Alien soldiers began surrendering not just to save their lives, but to change sides. Within a week, there were more alien defectors fighting for the rebellion than there were aliens fighting for the hegemony. Captain Amy Wells, now commanding her own battle group, led the liberation of Mars. The red planet had been turned into a hegemony fortress, with massive weapons and shield generators protecting it. But the human attack came from an unexpected direction. "We're not attacking from space," Amy told her officers. "We're attacking from underground." Human miners had been secretly digging tunnels under Mars for months. When Amy's fleet arrived, they didn't attack the fortress. Instead, they waited while the tunnels were filled with explosives. When the charges went off, the entire fortress collapsed from below. "Mars is free," Amy reported to Admiral Morrison. "The hegemony garrison has surrendered." The liberation of Mars became a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy. The red planet, which had been a symbol of hegemony power, was now flying the flag of the rebellion. But the most important victory was not won with weapons. It was won with words. Captain Travis Kelly, working with Ambassador Carol Stone, had been talking to rebel groups across the galaxy. Their message was always the same: "You are not alone. We will fight with you." The psychological impact was enormous. For the first time in centuries, enslaved species believed that freedom was possible. More importantly, they believed that someone would help them fight for it. "The hegemony doesn't understand what's happening," Carol reported from her hidden station. "They think this is just a military rebellion. They don't realize it's a revolution of ideas." The revolution was spreading faster than any army could move. On worlds the humans had never visited, people were rising up against their oppressors. The simple idea that freedom was worth fighting for had become the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. Supreme Commander Zethkar called another emergency meeting. But this time, only half of his species' representatives showed up. The others had either joined the rebellion or were fighting their own civil wars. "How many systems have we lost?" he asked. 43, sir," replied General Vextar, one of the few officers still loyal to the hegemony. "And we're losing more every day. What about reinforcements?" "Sir, we don't have any reinforcements. Most of our member species are fighting against us now. The ones that are still loyal are busy defending their own worlds. For the first time in the history of the hegemony, Supreme Commander Zethkar was losing an empire. The carefully built structure of fear and control that had lasted for centuries was crumbling in a matter of months. "It's the humans," he said. "They've poisoned the galaxy with their ideas." "Sir, perhaps we should consider negotiating," suggested General Vextar. "Negotiate?" Zethkar's voice was full of rage. "We don't negotiate with slaves. We destroy them." But even as he spoke, Zethkar knew that the old ways were ending. The humans had done something no species had ever done before. They had shown the galaxy that the hegemony could be defeated. The war was entering its final phase. The rebellion controlled more than half the galaxy, and more worlds were joining every day. The hegemony's military was scattered and demoralized. Their economy was collapsing as their slave world stopped producing goods. Most importantly, the idea of freedom had spread beyond anyone's ability to control it. Even if the humans were defeated tomorrow, the revolution would continue. The galaxy had learned that slavery was not inevitable, that oppression could be resisted, and that freedom was worth any price. Earth had started the war as one small world fighting for survival. Now it was the center of a galactic alliance fighting for the freedom of everyone. The humans had not just refused to surrender. They had inspired an entire galaxy to stand up and fight. The final battle was coming, and for the first time in history, the hegemony was afraid. 6 months after the aliens first arrived at Earth, the war was finally ending. But it was not ending the way Supreme Commander Zethkar had planned. His mighty empire was gone, scattered across the galaxy like leaves in a storm. The final battle would take place in the Vega system, at the heart of what used to be the hegemony's power. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the largest fleet ever assembled. Ships from dozens of worlds flew together under one flag, the flag of freedom. Human vessels flew alongside Zephyrian cruisers, rover fighters, and even ships from species that had once been the hegemony's most loyal servants. "Admiral, all fleet commanders are ready," reported Captain Travis Kelly, who had become Jake's second in command. "We have ships from 37 different species." Jake nodded. 6 months ago, he had been defending one space station. Now he commanded the most diverse military force in galactic history. Every ship in his fleet represented a world that had chosen freedom over slavery. "Send the message to Zethkar," Jake said. "Give him one last chance to surrender." The message was broadcast to the remaining hegemony fleet orbiting Vega Prime. It was simple and direct. "Supreme Commander Zethkar, your empire is finished. Your subjects have chosen freedom. Surrender now, and we will show you the mercy you never showed others." The response came quickly. Zethkar's image appeared on the communication screen, his forearms spread wide in anger. "I will never surrender to inferior species. The hegemony has ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. We will not be defeated by primitives and rebels." "Then you leave us no choice," Jake replied. The final battle began at dawn, Vega time. The hegemony still had powerful ships and advanced weapons, but they were outnumbered 10 to 1. More importantly, they were fighting an enemy they could not understand. Captain Amy Wells led the first attack, commanding a mixed squadron of human and alien ships. Her fighters moved like a school of fish, each pilot knowing exactly what the others were thinking. The hegemony ships tried to respond, but their rigid command structure could not adapt fast enough. "Their formation is breaking," Amy reported. "The human tactics are working. The alien crews don't know how to fight as individuals." The battle was fierce but brief. The hegemony ships fought with the desperation of cornered animals, but they could not match the coordination of the rebel fleet. Every species in the alliance had learned from the humans. They had learned to think for themselves, to adapt, to never give up. Supreme Commander Zethkar's flagship, the Pride of Hegemony, found itself surrounded by enemy ships. His crew was panicking, his weapons were failing, and his engines were damaged. For the first time in his long life, Zethkar was truly afraid. "Sir, we must abandon ship," said General Vextar, the last of his loyal officers. "The ship is lost." But before Zethkar could respond, something unexpected happened. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the communication system. "Supreme Commander Zethkar, this is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Alliance. Your ship is disabled, and your crew is in danger. We are prepared to rescue you and your people. You have my word that you will not be harmed." Zethkar stared at the communication screen in confusion. "Why would you save us?" "We are your enemies." "Because that's what civilized people do," Jake replied. "We don't leave anyone to die in space, even our enemies." The rescue operation took 2 hours. Human and rebel ships carefully evacuated the crew of the Pride of Hegemony, treating the injured and providing food and water to the survivors. Zethkar watched in amazement as his former slaves showed kindness to the people who had oppressed them for centuries. "I don't understand," Zethkar said to Jake as he was brought aboard the Defiance. "Why are you showing us mercy? We would have destroyed you completely." "That's the difference between us," Jake replied. "You rule through fear. We lead through hope. You destroy your enemies. We try to make them into friends." This single act of mercy completed the victory that weapons alone could never achieve. Across the galaxy, former Hegemony soldiers and civilians saw the rescue operation on their screens. They saw their former masters being treated with kindness and dignity by the very people they had tried to enslave. The psychological impact was enormous. If the rebels could show mercy to Zethkar himself, then perhaps there was a place for everyone in this new galaxy. The formal end of the war came 3 days later. President Daniel Clark, speaking from Earth, addressed the entire galaxy. His words were broadcast to every world, in every language, reaching billions of people who had never been free before. "Today, we announce the formation of the Terran Alliance," President Clark said. "This is not an empire built on conquest and slavery. This is an alliance built on freedom and cooperation. Every species, every world, every individual has the right to choose their own destiny." The principles of the alliance were simple. No species would rule over another. No world would be forced to join. Every member would have a voice, and every voice would be heard. It was the opposite of everything the hegemony had represented. Captain Lisa Hayes, now serving as Earth's first Galactic ambassador, explained the alliance to the assembled representatives from hundreds of worlds. "We offer you partnership, not domination," she said. "We offer you protection, not conquest. We offer you a voice, not silence. The choice, as always, is yours." The response was overwhelming. Within a month, over 200 worlds had joined the alliance. Former hegemony species that had been enemies for centuries were now working together as equals. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Dr. Helen Price, working with scientists from dozens of species, made an important discovery. The diversity of the alliance was not just politically valuable, it was scientifically revolutionary. Each species brought unique knowledge and perspectives that, when combined, led to breakthroughs no single species could have achieved alone. "We're not just building a government," she reported to President Clark. "We're building a new kind of civilization, one where differences are strengths, not weaknesses." The transformation was remarkable. Former slave worlds became centers of learning and culture. Species that had forgotten their own histories began to rediscover their heritage. The galaxy that had been gray and uniform under hegemony, rule became colorful and diverse under the alliance. Even Zethkar began to understand. Living as a guest on Earth, he saw something he had never seen before: a world where different kinds of people live together in peace. Humans with different skin colors, different beliefs, and different ideas, all working together for the common good. "Your species is very strange," he told Dr. Price during one of their conversations. "You fight harder than anyone when you must, but you show more kindness than anyone when you can." "That's what makes us human," she replied. "We fight for what we believe in, but we never forget that our enemies are people too." The story came full circle 1 year after the first alien broadcast. Admiral Morrison, now commander of the Alliance Defense Force, stood once again on Luna Station, looking out at the stars. But this time, the view was different. Instead of empty space, he saw ships from 100 worlds, all flying together under the banner of freedom. Ambassador Hayes sent the final message of the war to every corner of the galaxy. Her words echoed the defiant broadcast that had started it all, but with a very different meaning. "1 year ago, an empire of oppression demanded our surrender," she said. "We rejected their peace because it was built on slavery and fear. Today, we offer you our peace, built on freedom and hope. We invite every species, every world, every individual to join us in building a galaxy where no one kneels to anyone else." She paused, then spoke the words that would become the motto of the new galactic age. "We rejected their peace. We offer you ours. The choice, as always, is yours." Earth had started the war as one small world fighting for survival. It ended as the heart of a galactic civilization based on the radical idea that all thinking beings deserve to be free. The humans had not just won a war, they had changed the galaxy forever. The camera pulled back to show Earth, no longer a lonely blue dot in the darkness, but the bright center of a constellation of free worlds. Humanity had faced the impossible and made it possible. They had taken on an empire and turned it into an alliance. They had rejected peace through surrender and created peace through freedom. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds under 1,000,000 different suns, people looked up at the stars and knew that they were truly free.